For the miners, October 1984 was darkened by disappointments. The pit deputies who ran safety at the pits said they too would go on strike, but then they changed their minds.
An all-out strike by the pit deputies would have achieved what 8 months of the miners' strike has failed to do, close down every pit in Britain.
Labour leader Neil Kinnock and his coal spokesman Stan Orme offered a new way to end the strike. Any pit closures would have to be beneficial to the colliery workforce and national interest. They took their plan to Coal Board Chief Ian McGregor.
To our astonishment, when Stan took that piece of paper down to Hobart House, the headquarters of the NCB, within hours, McGregor had accepted it. Neither Stan and I could believe it. We decided the next port of call was Scargill. Scargill turned it down flat. And Stan phoned me with that news, and I was totally bewildered by that. And Stan said to me at that stage, Scargill is unlike any trade unionist I've ever met. He doesn't believe in negotiation. What do trade unions do if they don't negotiate?
We've had 3,000 of our people injured on picket lines. We've had 5 of our people killed as they fight for the right to work. For God's sake, colleagues, give support to our resolution and take us with you and with the NUM on the way to victory.
Throughout the dispute, Kinnock was disturbed and angered by Scargill's leadership.
Disliked the strutting, I disliked the arrogance. It shifted gear to detestation as the strike went on.
In early November, the Coal Board went on the offensive. They targeted the Hatfield picket line that no one had crossed since August. Quietly, the Coal Board contacted men they thought might be ready to crack. Terry Stalgis was one of them.
The circumstances was I'd just got divorced. I'd just bought myself a little boat, and that had emptied my bank account. So I was flint skint. No money, what am I going to do? Can't keep going down to my mum's expecting her to feed me all the time. Because she was going on 70, 60, 68. So I went back to work. I had to go back to work.
So, on the morning of November the 8th, Terry Stalgis met a bus taking men through the Hatfield picket line. The police had been told trouble was likely.
What we were told that morning was that it would be a highly territorial thing. I expected that if there'd been no police in the intervening period between the August and November, that we would be highly resisted. As you looked up, the sky would go dark with bricks, bottles, pieces of railing, all come just raining down on you. I was in the miners' strike for most of the 12 months, and these 2 days will always stand out in my mind, completely different in the level of intensity, in the level of violence, the missiles, the sheer determination.
When the bricks started flying in this direction, we had 2 tin picket huts here. And I can remember us diving into them and blocking the entrance so that the police that were stood here couldn't dive in it as well with us. You know, they weren't having any of that.
It's a form of patriotism. That's what Hatfield was like. It was a form of patriotism because we were defending that. We were defending the pit gear because that represented something. And that represented something that we were going to lose.
This was their pit, this was their livelihood. But of course, I was equally determined that we were not going to be driven out of that pit.
Mounted police charged through the village streets. They were met with a hail of stones and catapult shots. The police responded with mobile patrols. One of those patrols came across Harry Harl.
So I'm coming along here, messing about, giving it that again. I looked up and a van pulled up. I realised then I was in serious trouble. You're a picket, no excuses, you're getting some clog. I slipped and went down. One of the most horriblest feelings you can ever want, with a van load of coppers chasing you. They were thumping me, but they weren't hitting me with truncheons. They were hitting me with fists like that, down on top of me.
In handcuffing Harry Harl, the police smashed the bones in his lower arm, leaving him in plaster for 6 weeks.
They came to knuckle and they came to crush, and they really attacked and really made us have it.
The police officers did what they were trained to do. They stood their ground, they were well disciplined. It was quite a scary thing, and they did a good job.
Bill King's successful tactics marked a turning point. Hatfield Main had cracked. A trickle back to work started at Hatfield. But the police officers were not celebrating.
You couldn't overlook the fact that in front of you there were hundreds and hundreds of young men who were probably about to lose their jobs. Nobody in the buses, not in the PSU and the police, were unaware of this fact. Most of us, including me, we were all working class boys. We all knew what the situation would be. You could look around the situation. There was no other work. This is a village with a pit in the middle of nowhere.
Saturday 10th of November, 1984. A lovely, fresh, sunny autumn day. The streets lay cluttered up with a combination of half bricks, stones and broken glass. Time to reflect on what has gone off, and also to wonder what is yet to come.
South Wales police say they're treating the death of a local taxi driver killed while driving a minor to work today as a murder inquiry. The driver died when a concrete post was thrown at his vehicle from a bridge as he took a minor to work near Merthyr Tydfil.
South Wales, another stronghold of the strike, was the scene of an appalling tragedy.
I was just making myself a cup of tea, and the telephone rang. And of course the telephone would ring very often, all through the night. And I picked the phone up, and there was a reporter from PA, who I knew, you know, and he said to me, "Are you sitting down?" And I said, "No." "Oh, come on, what's up?" And he said, "Well, your boys have just killed a taxi driver," he said, "up on the Heads of the Valleys Road."
David Wilkie was taking a miner to his work at Merthyr Vale Colliery when they were ambushed as they passed beneath a bridge on the Heads of the Valleys Road.
And I remember, for only the second time in my life, my knees began to shake. Because I thought, hang on, we've got all those records we've kept over in the NUM offices. There's all those maps on the wall. We're going to get implicated in this. And I remember thinking, I've got to get to that office and I've got to destroy everything, which I did. Never told anybody that before.
It's a great tragedy and one which I'm sure everyone in South Wales feels tremendous sorrow for the man and for his family. And
Back in Hatfield, reaction to the tragedy was much harder.
Frankly, hard lines. I mean, our people were getting killed. Our people were getting set up to be killed. The scabs were taking the food out of our mouth. The scabs knew exactly what the odds were. In a place like South Wales, you defy everybody, you've got contempt for everybody else, and you go to work, and you're running a taxi business to take scabs to work in a pit community. as you know, we didn't intend to kill the taxi driver. We probably didn't intend to kill the scab. We intended to stop him getting to work, and he got killed incidentally.
That scab, a taxi driver killed in Wales, wasn't there? Now he shouldn't have been killed, which is fair comment. Should have been scabbing back. They should have been killed.
We were in an absurd situation. This was the working class fighting each other and killing each other.
In Hatfield too, the working class were turning against one another, as strikebreaker Terry Stalgis discovered whilst visiting a girlfriend.
I was just turning the back kitchen light off. And the back door got shot out. Window in the back door got shot out with a shotgun.
Terry Stalgis bought a shotgun of his own. And when two men visited him on his canal boat, he was ready.
And they threatened to throw paving slabs. I just said, go on then. And he went like that to lift it up to throw it. And I just got a gun out. Go on then. And fired up into air with blank shot. And they dropped it and ran off. But it was like a life or death thing then. It wouldn't be their life or my death, one or two.
By late 1984, the strikers' position was bleak. Men were returning to work, the government and coal board resolute. Public opinion had hardened against their strike. And Christmas was coming.
Christmas time was terrible. That was heartbreaking. You're going to wrap the present at Christmas Eve, and you know that's not going to take place. You celebrated Christmas together, you celebrating children to buy them toys. But that Christmas, there was nothing. Not a thing. You could not buy anything.
I think it was more pride, I suppose, because, Christmas, or as any time, is a time when you provide, and because he couldn't.
And this is going to be a damn sad Christmas. And that's what it turned out to be.
But Brenda Nixon found some consolation in the shared hardships of a pit community.
I thought it was a great time. Probably one of the best Christmases I've had, I think. Just because everyone was the same. Everyone banded together.
And at least one of the Hatfield pickets was enjoying the festivities. Harry Harle was still in plaster, the result of his arrest in November. He was a local hero.
I got more women that Christmas than I've had it since. Unbelievable. Everybody was drunk, which I suppose people wouldn't expect you to be. But there were a lot of cheap wine flying about. Brilliant. Really good, brilliant atmosphere. You never walk alone.
But Christmas cheer couldn't conceal the situation. Hatfield miners were reduced to stealing coal and vegetables for their families.
I would never go stealing. Never stole in my life. But during miners' strike I stole, because I had a family to feed. There's a justification of what I did with regards to stealing for my children. And so you change into a different person. You're not just that person who says, "Hiya Dave, how's things, you know, okay." No, you're fighting, you change into this person who becomes a lot harder.
In the midst of their misery, there were moments of farce. One morning, Dave Nixon was driving back from picket duty.
I was driving the van at the time, and something shot us across the road, and I swerved it. And we looked at each other and we says, "That were chicken." Eventually, one of us got this chicken, and we've got it in the back of the van. So you can hear this squawking it back, and it's getting loud. And I said, "What's happening?" He said, "We can't wring its neck. We can't do it." And all of a sudden, we hear this banging in the back of the car. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "We just stamped on its head." I said, "Oh, never." And then that was the thought of it then.
Whilst the Hatfield miners faced hardship, many of the police they confronted were on lucrative overtime.
It was a well-paid task. We were earning a lot of money. And there were officers who perhaps acted unprofessionally and made that known. You know, a waving of a £10 note and "thanks very much." It seems almost trivial, but it was a big thing.
It was strange because I had a young family at the time. My daughter was a few months old, my son was a few years old, so I knew I had a duty to provide for my family, as did the miners to provide for their family. So the fact that I got paid overtime was really, what could I do? Give it away? From the miners' strike, we actually bought a top-of-the-range microwave and we christened it Arthur.
My grandfather was a local police officer around here, the old type on pushback. Mother reared me right, never said boo to an officer. Never. Always had respect for him. I won't piss on one if they're on fire now.